Welcome back to the Past My Prime YouTube channel. DustinPrime here. And would this work? Wait, what am I talking about exactly? Well, I was scrolling on Instagram Reels the other day, and the algorithm started to throw me all those like side hustle videos. And there was one that stuck out, and it reminded me of something that I experienced last year. And so what was that? Well, here's a quick backstory. I used to travel a lot for my job, and I'd have to fly out on like Saturday or Sunday mornings. And I would always try to get the earliest flight possible. It's either like a 6 a.m. flight, 7:15, stuff like that. And I'm about half an hour away from the airport. So I would log into Uber or Lyft, try to schedule a ride for that early morning flight. And so on one of those trips to the airport, I got a guy, he was an older guy, he was retired, and he was telling me like his life story. He was asking me all these questions. He's like, yeah, I retired. I just drive for fun and to make extra cash. And he was telling me some mornings he was cleaning up, and he would only work a few hours, like 2 to 3 hours. And he would only take rides that he had scheduled. So he knew he was getting the work. So this got me thinking, out of all these different side hustles and things, could this be one that would really work for like almost anyone, barring a few circumstances which we'll go over at the end of the video. But I don't know anything about this. I've never drove for Uber, I've never drove for Lyft or done anything like that. I've never even done any side hustle. I've only just had my one job or my career. So I needed some help, and what's the best thing to probably do nowadays? ChatGPT. And I'm kind of a noob with ChatGPT too, so this was like, a total shot in the dark. I'm just gonna see what happens. So I was going in completely blind, and I was pretty blown away with the data that came back and the results I got. But would it work? All right, so this was the prompt that I gave ChatGPT. Okay, so here it goes. Hello, hope you are having a good digital day. Remember, always be polite to these AIs. They might be robots one day, and they never forget. Based on your data, how much do you think someone could make by driving Uber or Lyft rides from the University of Central Florida area to the Orlando International Airport or vice versa? The time frame for this would be approximately 3 to 4 hours on early Saturday or Sunday mornings. If it makes a difference, the rides would probably be scheduled for pickup prior. And so without putting my address in there, I just gave it a general location that's pretty central to the area I live in, the University of Central Florida. And there's only like 2 main direct routes that could get you over to the Orlando International Airport. And depending upon traffic and things like that, either of them would probably take you about 25 to 30 minutes. And so this is what I got. Let's break this down to estimate potential earnings driving Uber or Lyft from the University of Central Florida to Orlando International Airport during early Saturday or Sunday mornings for 3 to 4 hours with scheduled pickups. So the first part of the data that it gave me was the route details. It has the distance listed there, approximately 22 to 25 miles one way. The approximate time, 35 to 45 minutes. Now, I don't know if that's totally accurate. I would say it's less. Maybe it's assuming you're going the speed limit, but every time that I'd been in one of these Uber or Lyfts, they would usually get me there right around like the 28, 29 minute mark. Sometimes if there was like no traffic really early in the morning, 25 minutes. And then it breaks down the fares. The base fare, $2, the cost per mile, the cost per minute, the airport surcharge, $4 to $5, especially for the drop-offs and pickups. And then it said, so a one-way trip can range from $25 to $40 depending upon, and then of course it lists out some of the data that's pulling in. Traffic, rider demand, if you get a tip, the platform bonuses, based on if you hit the goals or not. And then it gave me the estimated total earnings. So estimated total earnings for 3 to 4 hours of work on weekend mornings. Let's say that each full airport round trip takes an hour and a half on average. So you could do 2 full round trips in maybe 3 to 4 hours. And so it gave me 3 scenarios, a conservative one, a realistic one, and then one for high demand during like Uber or Lyft surges. And so what do we see? Scenario 1, a net of approximately, and we'll stay conservative, $48. Scenario 2, approximately $70. And scenario 3, approximately $110. So if you were hitting that surge demand, say 3 hours of work, $110, it's about $35 an hour. And without even asking, it gave me these factors that help. So it says scheduled pickups, minimize wait time, and guarantee rides. Airport demand. Morning airport trips are often strong on weekends. Surge pricing can occur early during travel rush, 5 to 7 a.m. And then some tips. Travelers with luggage often tip more if you help them arrive on time. And then some other things. Cost to keep in mind: fuel around $10 to $15 for this time frame, depending upon vehicle efficiency, the wear and tear on your car, yeah, of course, and then the dead miles. If you're returning empty, the profits drop off unless you can stack the return trips. You want to be able to possibly bring someone back with you who's maybe coming in on one of those early morning flights. And then so ChatGPT wrapped it up. It said, final verdict: with a solid strategy, no major traffic issues, $70 to $110 net for 3 to 4 hours in the early morning shift is realistic for this area. Possibly more if you can catch a surge or build regulars through scheduled pickups. And then it threw in, would you like a strategy to optimize your chances for repeat airport rides and tips to increase efficiency? And so yeah, of course, I just said, yeah, sure, please explain the strategy. And it said, great, let's build a smart airport-focused rideshare strategy tailored to the UCF to the MCO early weekend mornings, maximizing income, minimizing downtime, and building repeat business. So it calls it the Strategy Airport Efficiency Loop Weekend Edition. And it gives it number 1, target a golden time window, best window 4:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. Saturday and Sunday. The flights would be between 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. for peak departures. Riders often schedule the pickups 60 to 90 minutes before departure. Surge pricing is common around 5 to 7 a.m. And then it throws in a pro tip: start around 4:15 a.m. to catch early travelers and beat competition. And then this next one right here is, I think, the discriminator. Like, this is the moneymaker. And this is what had me thinking of this whole idea based on when I met that guy who drove me to the airport, because I was so stressed out about if I was going to be able to confirm a ride and knew I would have a ride to the airport that next morning. Enable scheduled rides and preload your queue. Turn on scheduled pickups in your Uber Lyft app. Important. Check the night before for airport drop-offs near the UCF area. And so this is just subbing in whatever sort of area you're trying to target. Accept and plan to chain 2 to 3 pickups with minimal dead time. If Uber Reserve or Lyft scheduled pickups is enabled in your area, prioritize those. And then it threw in a little tip, and I don't know if you could really do this. I mean, I guess it's a great idea. You'd have to figure that out. Keep a notepad of frequent flyer pickup addresses and their flight times. You can later offer them off-app ride scheduling, but more info on that below. And then next it said, optimize your return trips from the airport, like it talked about. You know, we don't want to be coming back empty if we have to. So it said, after dropping off at MCO, instead of heading straight back to the UCF area, wait 5 to 10 minutes in the MCO staging lot. And I know kind of like right where this is, it's on like kind of the loop that I would always take to get to the Delta terminal. And having traveled to airports all around the country, I always see these lots. You know, it's where they put all the rideshare vehicles now, because the whole rideshare thing has gotten so popular in like the last 10 years that they can't have people sitting up there in the drop-off zones. So they have these like staging parking lots where they tell everybody to go and wait. Look for incoming riders from airport to hotels or Lake Nona, which is another kind of like big area that's over there near the airport, or coming back to UCF. They may not always match, but often you'll get tourists or college visitors going your direction. And then it had something interesting there too, and I wouldn't know nothing about this, but it said, don't decline too many requests or the app might throttle down your activity. So yeah, we don't want to decline too much so then we get like no rides presented to us. Step 4, build your personal rider network. In parentheses, ethically. College students, international students, young professionals love reliable rides. After a good ride, say, hey, if you ever need another early morning airport run, I'm usually online around this time, so feel free to request me again. And then it said, some drivers hand out business cards. Uber allows it only if rides are still booked through the platform or outside the app with mutual consent. So, you know, they just don't want you to be kind of like creeping on someone. You know, they want it to all be kind of agreed upon. So, you know, just be careful. And it says, some drivers offer a cash ride at Uber rates to repeat riders off the app. This is against Uber's TOS, so proceed at your own discretion and risk. So I don't know exactly how they would find this out, but it's like then, you know, you're just becoming a personal taxi. So I'd probably need more data on that. And if you've drove for Uber or Lyft, you know, explain in the comments, you know, what exactly is going on there. Have you ever given a personal ride? And if so, do you know anybody or yourself who's ever gotten in trouble for doing it? Yeah, let me know. And then section 5, boost your rating and tips. Keep bottled water, gum, mints, tissues handy, especially for morning flyers. Help load luggage, especially for older riders or families. Drive smooth. Early risers don't want jolty rides. And then it threw in some tools, applications that you can use to help out. Flight Aware app, check which flights are departing soon to anticipate rider demand. Gridwise or Sherpa Share, which tracks rideshare trends, airport patterns, income. And then of course Waze, Google Maps, so you can, you know, navigate smoothly. And you definitely want to see if you're going to have any sort of slowdowns because of accidents or closures on the highway, stuff like that. And ChatGPT always summarizes everything, so here's their little summary at the end. Summary, target, optimize, build loyalty. And then it lists out the steps. Step 1, start early, 4:30 a.m. Use scheduled rides, way to MCO for return trips, build a regular base, and then provide a smooth ride experience. And if you use ChatGPT, you know that usually towards the end, it will kind of wrap up and ask you if you want to keep going. So it asked another question. Would you like a sample driver log template to track your UCF to MCO income, ride durations, tips, or maybe a mini flyer or a digital card template for building a rider network? Yeah, sure. So I said, yes, please provide your driver log template and a digital card. Absolutely. Below are both items to help you stay organized and build your rider database around UCF to MCO. And I don't know if I would use this, but if you were just getting started, maybe you really wanted to keep track of things, you could. So it generated a little template here, keep track of the date, the days, see your timings, the number of trips you did, how many miles you drove, all the metrics that you would expect for this type of activity. And then the little digital card template, it said, you can hand this out digitally via text or an email, put it in a PDF or put it in an image, and then you can kind of just send it out. And on there, list the name, schedule, platform, the area that you service, little thing, early mornings, scheduled pickups available, on-time pickups, friendly, safe rides, help with luggage, airport expert. Don't put that on there if you're not an airport expert though. And then it gives you a little section, put your phone number here if you want them to text you or whatnot. And then it followed up with that disclaimer kind of about like the Uber terms of service. Important note, you're allowed to encourage them to schedule pickups on platform. However, Uber Lyft prohibits soliciting off-platform rides during their official trips unless you're doing personal transportation outside the app and the rider initiates and gives consent. So just make sure you're not trying to just kind of force people to text you if they need a ride. Just try to stay within the application itself. But if it comes up and they say they really need someone to take them to the airport like every weekend or once a month or something, as long as they agree, you're not violating the TOS. So I was really surprised with how easy that was to get this data and to have it just spit this out with very, very minimal input and effort. And earlier in the video, I did say pretty much anybody could do this, barring some factors to consider. One, well, you gotta be able to drive and you gotta have a car. I think that's kind of a given. Second, you have to be able to get an account on Uber or Lyft and be verified. You have your profile set up. You can actually use the app to then start getting the rides. And then third is, can you really do this just with your situation, your life, your schedule? Like we said, we're targeting Saturday, Sunday. I guess you could probably throw in Friday, early morning times. Like, hey, if you're really trying to make an extra buck and say you work from 9 to 5 as like your normal job, could you get up earlier without being too messed up from say like 4 to 8, do some rides and then head into your full-time job? Do you have some dependents that are relying on you? Do you have kids? Do you have family members to where you wouldn't be able to be out at those early morning hours? And then fourth, lastly, do you live in an area to where you could kind of target this type of traffic in these trips? Like I said, I'm only about 30 minutes from the airport. I could see how this might not work if you had to commute further to get closer to like a targeted area to then be able to pick people up there and then go to the airport. If you lived like 2 hours from the nearest airport, this probably isn't going to work for you. But on another side of things, it could be possible that you could find another area to area that would have high traffic and this type of demand where you could still kind of capitalize on it in the same idea. So I think you just need to answer those questions, and if all of them were yes, then I don't see why anybody could not do this. And hell, we're saying on a Saturday morning you could make anywhere, close to $100. Let's just leave it there. So Saturday, Sunday, $200, about 4 weekends a month. I mean, you're looking at close to maybe $700, $800 extra income. And I think this is probably one of like the easiest of these side hustle type things that you could do. But what if you were still making excuses and you just said, this sounds great, but I really don't have the time. So would there be better times to do this? I was kind of thinking the same thing because my next weekends that are coming up are really busy. They're all booked up. I wouldn't be able to be, up in the morning around those times. I wouldn't even really be here for some of the weekends. So back to the chat and let's see what they had to say. I asked, do you have any idea based off the data or forecasting that would show the best weekends in the next 6 months to maximize profit and efficiency? And of course, ChatGPT had an answer. It said, yes, based on historical rideshare demand data, airport travel trends, school calendars, and event-driven tourism, we can reasonably forecast which upcoming weekends for the next 6 months are likely to offer peak rideshare earnings near UCF to the Orlando International Airport. And so yeah, if you wanted to check, just put your area and your route in there that you have in mind. And then it gave a breakdown. Forecast best weekends for high demand airport runs. highest potential weekends. And so this is covering between August to January, and it lists it right out. August 16th to 18th. Why? And this was shocking because it's taken this into account. UCF's move-in weekend. So all the college students are returning back from summer break and the semester's getting ready to start. So it says move-in weekend, back to school travel surge. And then August 30th to September, Labor Day weekend, which is a long weekend. Airport heavily used Friday to Monday. And then it lists some more out. Students fly home for fall break, a marathon that's coming up in Orlando, plus extra festivals, Thanksgiving for the holiday traffic, post-Thanksgiving for everybody flying back, UCF finals, tests are over, students are flying back home for Christmas, and then the last minute surge for the Christmas holiday, post-Christmas people flying back, and then even after Christmas and after New Year's, people still going back from that break. And this was interesting as well because it gave you the rationale and where it got the data from. And so it says flight volume and holiday traffic. TSA checkpoints and MCO report record-setting volume during Thanksgiving, Christmas, and early January, which is kind of expected. Sunday mornings before holidays like Labor Day, MLK are prime time for long distance travelers. And like myself, long distance traveler, they're usually the ones who don't want to park at the airport. They're not going to only be gone for a few days, so they don't want to be paying that parking at the airport either. They want to get some sort of Uber or Lyft. It's going to be cheaper in the long run. And then it said the college specific patterns. It knows when the semester's ending. It knows the big periods of move-ins. It also says, hey, this is one of the biggest universities in the US, so this magnifies the demand. And then it pulled in Orlando tourism and events, food and wine festival at Epcot, marathons, different things happening at the theme parks. And once again, the question that it wraps up with, would you like a calendar file, that you can add to your Google or your Outlook calendar? And so the ChatGPT was going to generate you this. You could put it on your calendar and have all your reminders and notifications and everything set up. So it's amazing. So do I think that this could work? I really think it could. And if you were someone like myself that's coming into this totally blind, a simple question got me started with this, and it kind of answered every question I have and gave me all this data to support it. I think I might actually try this out when I can have some free calendar time, kind of set aside. I can kind of target some of these weekends, and I want to see the results. If you're a veteran Uber or Lyft driver and you think I'm completely crazy, hey, let me know. Tell me in the comments, what am I wrong about? Is there something I haven't thought of? But having those guaranteed rides already scheduled, early morning, the traffic's not as heavy, right where you're going, you kind of have a path laid out for the route that you want to continually come back and forth on, and you're doing this in the morning, you're just kind of getting it knocked out, 600, 700, 800 extra bucks a month, that could really change your situation if you needed it. So I thought this was kind of an interesting thought experiment. And besides this one, doing scheduled airport rides, so to say. And so there's two more that I have in mind that are in this similar kind of aspect for, hey, I know nothing about this. Give me the data. Tell me everything I need to know. ChatGPT is incredibly powerful, and I was kind of blown away how easy this was. So if you'd like to see those two other side hustles that I have in mind, let me know in the comments, because I hope to investigate those as well, because I see them brought up often a lot in these side hustle communities. And I'd say this is probably the cheapest one to get started, because all you really need is just your car that you probably already have, and then the gas that you're going to be using to go back and forth. Number two, I would say, is more expensive. It would require a little bit of capital get started. It's shown a lot to be successful, and a lot of people say it's the ultimate passive income strategy. And then number three trumps them all. People talk it's the holy grail of passive income, but I could see how this one would take a lot more capital to get started, and probably the most amount of initial work too. But I'm more so interested to see what the data tells me and what sort of tips and how I could really break these strategies down for person who knows nothing about it trying to get into it. But that does it for this one. If you enjoyed this video and the content we covered today, hit that free like button, subscribe so you can stay informed, and then drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. And guys, likes and comments really help small channels, so I totally appreciate it. And I know this has been a different type of video for this channel, but I really appreciate you sticking around. And until then, I've been DustinPrime, you've been you, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.